be in relatively good physical health, but of course, their state of mind is, of some concern. Let's get some insight. I want to bring in forensic psychiatrist Carole Lieberman from Los Angeles. So talk to us about what, people go through. And these are kids. The youngest is 11. They've initially spent 9 days in pitch black, not knowing if they would ever be rescued. Now they're being told they might have to swim through murky waters. Some of them can't swim. They're told perhaps they'd have to spend 4 months there. What does that do to someone's mind?
Well, when they were rescued, first of all, we have to give them credit for being incredibly strong psychologically up to this point. And of course, that was helped by being a team that has faced challenges together, with a coach. That was a big help. But they are at really great risk. Being in a cave with darkness all the time, obviously they each have some degree of PTSD. They're feeling some shame for having gotten into this mess. They're feeling some guilt. Fear, of course, but when they saw the two British divers, they were very happy. And the problem is that in their mind, after what they've gone through, to them it seemed like, oh, great, now we're saved. We're going to be able to get out of here. But there's, of course, a lot more complexity to it. And the idea of, maybe that was a hallucination. It could well have been the rooster that the reporter was talking about. It would be nice if it wasn't. But yes, they can have things like hallucinations as well. And the idea of taking them out teaching them to swim and to scuba dive in these incredibly difficult waters is very dangerous. I'm a psychiatrist, but I worked for a period of time briefly as a scuba diving doctor, and I learned scuba diving. And the most dangerous thing when you're learning to scuba dive or actually scuba diving is anxiety, fear, panic. And so if they panic in that because they're disoriented, because of the darkness of the water, or because sometimes people take off their mask if they have trouble breathing, or they use up their oxygen because of breathing too quickly. Now, of course, there are going to be divers with them who will help, but and then there's also the danger if things start not going well, that there could be a situation like Lord of the Flies, where people the kids start blaming each other and for being in this situation if they start feeling hopeless. So the bottom line is that there needs to be a lot of psychological help in there, not just the food and the blankets and the water and all that, but a lot of attention to how they are psychologically.
Absolutely. You mentioned scuba diving and don't panic. I was scuba diving once in Egypt, and I panicked, and I rose up too quickly and burst my eardrum. And this is, and I'm an adult, and there was no danger around me, and I could see through. So I can imagine a small child like that. By the way, there are 10 rescuers with the boys inside the cave. So they're keeping them company. They're trying to make them feel, okay about being down there. What impact does that have? What difference does that make?
Oh, that's very important. And it'll be even better when they are able to establish more communication with their families, on the outside. That will boost their spirits and so on, and give them more of a will to hold on. It's important that the kids express their feelings about all this. There's a tendency to want to act macho and like, okay, we came through this far. I'm tough. I can do whatever. We were supposed to go in the water. Fine, I'll go in the water. People shouldn't take that at face value, and instead they should let the kids express their fears, their feelings of hopelessness or sadness, or whatever the feelings are at that moment. And of course, it's going to change from moment to moment. But they need to keep the kids well informed and just always be paying attention to their psychological health.
But let me ask you this: what would, psychologically speaking, be less damaging to them? Would it be keeping them there for perhaps up to 3 or 4 months, supervised with rescuers, with help, with entertainment, whatever it might be, or getting them out by teaching them how to scuba dive? What would be less damaging here? Because that's really what authorities are weighing here.
Well, that it's a very hard thing to determine because, yes, of course, in some ways, the sooner they get out, the better. But on the other hand, if they can't really make it, if it's too much in their state, these aren't like vacationers, learning scuba diving for a week. They're in a very traumatized state. And so I think the risk of any of them panicking, taking off their mask, taking too much oxygen, going to the top too quickly, that's a real risk. And in some ways, keeping them there longer if they give them enough therapy might be the safer way to go.
Carole Lieberman, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for your expertise on this story. We appreciate it.